It was a hot, sweaty summer day. The sun burned bright in the sky, making everything feel sticky and slow. Out on the highway, cars zoomed past, their engines humming loud. Some honked. Some sped by so fast you could barely see them. Right off that busy road sat a little place called Burger Bonanza. It wasn't fancy, just a small fast food spot with a red and yellow sign that flickered sometimes. Inside, the air smelled like fries and burgers. You know that yummy smell when you're super hungry? That's what it was like all the time in there. Behind the counter stood a guy named Jake Miller. He wasn't tall or short, just regular. His hair was a messy pile on his head, like he forgot to brush it. Maybe he didn't care. He wore an old apron, faded and stained with ketchup and grease. It hung loose over his plain t-shirt and jeans. To everyone who came in, customers, workers, even his boss, Jake was just the burger guy. That's what they called him. Not Jake or Mr. Miller. Just burger guy. He flipped patties, handed out fries, and wiped the counter. Day after day, same old stuff. Jake didn't talk much. He was quiet. Super quiet. When people ordered food, he'd nod and say, "Got it?" That was it. No big smiles, no loud laughs. He didn't chat about the weather or ask how your day was. Most customers didn't even look at him. They'd grab their bags and go. Some didn't even say thanks. To them, Jake was like a shadow there, but not really important. He didn't stand out. He didn't try to. He just did his job and kept his head down. His boss wasn't much nicer. The manager, a big guy named Mr. Pete, liked to yell. A lot. His face was always red, and his voice boomed across the tiny restaurant. "Jake! Hurry up with those fries," he'd shout. Or, "Burger guy, stop being so slow." Mr. Pete never said good job or nice work. Nope. He just barked orders like Jake was a dog or something. If the line got long, Mr. Pete would stomp over and glare at Jake. "Move faster, kid. We got hungry people here," he'd snap. Jake never argued. He'd just nod and keep going. Quiet. Calm. Like nothing bothered him. The other workers weren't much better. There was Sarah, who worked the drive-through window. She'd roll her eyes when Jake took an extra second to flip a burger. "Come on, burger guy, keep up," she'd say. Then there was Tim, the guy who mopped the floors. He'd laugh and whisper to Sarah, "Jake's so boring. Does he even know how to talk?" They didn't hate Jake. They just didn't care about him. To them, he was nobody special, just the guy who made the food. Life at Burger Bonanza was simple for Jake. Wake up, go to work, flip burgers, go home. Over and over. Kind of boring, right? The days all mixed together. Hot mornings turned into loud afternoons. Cars kept zooming outside. Customers kept coming in. Same old orders: fries, please. Burger, no pickles. Make it quick. Nothing exciting ever happened. Well, at least that's what everyone thought. The regulars, those people who came in all the time, didn't think twice about Jake. He was just part of the place, like the tables or the fry machine. Forgettable. Invisible. But here's the thing. The big, sneaky thing. Jake wasn't just the burger guy. Oh no. He had a secret. A huge, amazing secret. It wasn't something small, like he was good at drawing or liked weird music. Nope. This was different. This was big. And nobody knew. Not Mr. Pete with his loud yelling. Not Sarah with her eye rolling. Not Tim with his mopping and laughing. Not even the customers who grabbed their food and left. Nobody had a clue. Jake kept it hidden, locked up tight inside him. He didn't brag. He didn't drop hints. He just stayed quiet, like always. What kind of secret, you ask? Well, that's the fun part. I'm not telling you yet. But imagine this: what if the person you see every day, the one you barely notice, turned out to be someone totally awesome? Someone who could do things you'd never guess? That's Jake. He looked normal. He acted normal. But deep down, he was anything but normal. His secret was like a treasure chest, buried under all that quiet and calm. And nobody was ready for what was hiding inside. Think about it. Every day, Jake stood there flipping burgers. Sweat dripped down his face from the hot grill. His apron got dirtier and dirtier. People walked by him like he was a piece of furniture. But all that time, he was more than they thought. Way more. His hands, the ones that stacked patties and poured soda, weren't just regular hands. They were strong. Tough. Maybe even a little dangerous. His eyes, the ones that looked down at the counter, saw more than anyone knew. He wasn't just watching the food cook. He was waiting. For what? You'll see. So, picture this sweaty summer day at Burger Bonanza. The fans buzzed overhead, trying to cool the sticky air. Fries sizzled in the back. Cars honked outside. Jake wiped his hands on his apron and handed a bag to a guy in a hurry. "Here you go," he said, soft and quick. The guy didn't even look up, just took the bag and left. Mr. Pete yelled something about cleaning the counter. Sarah sighed at the drive-thru. Tim dragged his mop across the floor. Everything was normal. Totally, completely normal. Except it wasn't. Not really. So, what do you think Jake's hiding? Is it something cool? Something wild? Something that could turn this boring little fast food joint upside down? I bet you're curious now. I bet you want to know what's coming next. Well, good news, this story's about to heat up. Stick around, because Jake's secret isn't staying secret for long. Something's coming. Something big. And when it hits, nobody's gonna forget the burger guy ever again. It was late in the afternoon at Burger Bonanza. The sun was still up, but it was getting lower, painting the sky orange and pink. Everything was quiet for a second, just the sound of fries sizzling and the hum of the fridge. Then, all of a sudden, a loud noise hit the air. Engines. Big, growly engines that made the whole place shake. The windows rattled a little. Everyone inside looked up, even Jake. Out in the parking lot, a bunch of bikers rolled in. Their motorcycles roared like angry animals. Dust kicked up behind them. They parked their bikes all messy, taking up tons of space. These weren't just any bikers. They were loud and tough looking. They wore black leather jackets that creaked when they moved. Their boots clomped hard on the ground. They laughed big, booming laughs that you could hear from far away. And their attitudes? Oh, they were bad. Really bad. Like they didn't care about anyone or anything. They pushed open the door to Burger Bonanza and walked in like they owned the whole place. Customers stared. Some looked scared. Others just tried to eat faster and get out. The leader of the pack was a guy named Rex. He was big, not super tall, but wide and strong looking. His beard was scruffy, like he hadn't shaved in forever. One of his front teeth was chipped, making his grin look mean and crooked. Rex strutted right up to the counter where Jake was standing. He leaned over, resting his elbows on the counter, and stared at Jake with a sneaky smirk. "Hey, burger boy," he said, his voice all rough and loud. "Make it quick. We don't got all day." His words dripped with meanness, like he was trying to make Jake feel small. Behind Rex, his biker buddies laughed. They grabbed fries from a tray Jake had just set out and started tossing them at each other. Plop. A fry hit the floor. Splash. Another landed in someone's soda. They didn't care. They made a mess, chuckling like it was the funniest thing ever. The other customers scooted their chairs away, trying not to get hit. Mr. Pete, the manager, peeked out from the back but didn't say anything. He just frowned and stayed quiet. Everyone was watching now, watching Rex, watching the bikers, and watching Jake. Jake didn't say a word. He just nodded, real slow, and kept his head down. His hands moved fast, though. He grabbed a bag, stuffed it with burgers and fries, and slid it across the counter to Rex. No fuss, no complaining. Just calm and steady. Most people would have been mad. Most people would have said something like, "Hey, stop that," or "Don't talk to me like that." But not Jake. He acted like nothing happened. Like Rex's mean words didn't even touch him. But Rex wasn't done. Oh no. He wanted to push harder. He leaned closer, his chipped tooth grin getting bigger. "What's wrong, kid?" he taunted. "Too scared to talk?" His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. The bikers laughed again, even louder this time. One of them yelled, "Yeah, Burger Boy's a chicken." They thought it was hilarious. Rex reached over, grabbed a ketchup packet from the counter, and flicked it right at Jake. Splat! It hit Jake's chest, leaving a little red smear on his faded apron. The whole place went quiet for a second. Everyone held their breath. What would Jake do? Most people would have yelled. Some might have thrown something back. Others might have run away or flinched, scared of what Rex would do next. But Jake? He didn't do any of that. He just stood there, still as a statue. He looked down at the ketchup on his apron, then grabbed a napkin. Swipe, swipe, he wiped it off, nice and slow. His face didn't change. No frown, no scared look, no angry glare. Just calm. Super calm. Like the ketchup didn't bother him one bit. His eyes, though, they were different. Sharp. Steady. Like he was seeing everything, even if he wasn't saying anything. Those eyes didn't look scared. Not even a little. They looked strong. Like Jake knew something nobody else did. The bikers didn't notice. They were too busy laughing and slapping each other's backs. Rex smirked again, thinking he'd won. See? Told ya. Burger Boy's too chicken to fight back, he said, turning to his buddies. They nodded and kept making noise, acting like kings of the restaurant. But something about Jake said he wasn't afraid. Not even close. Sure, he didn't talk back. He didn't yell or throw a punch. He didn't even look mad. But the way he stood there, shoulders straight, hands steady, made you wonder. Why wasn't he shaking? Why didn't he run? Most people would have been nervous with a big, mean guy like Rex in their face. Most people would have at least looked worried. Not Jake. He was like a rock, solid and still. It was weird. Sneaky. Like he had a trick up his sleeve, but he wasn't ready to show it yet. The bikers kept being loud. They grabbed their food and plopped down at a table, kicking their boots up on the chairs. Fries fell everywhere. Soda cans clinked as they opened them. Rex kept talking, loud and rude. This place is a dump, he said, chewing with his mouth open. And Burger Boy's the slowest guy I ever met. His friends laughed again, tossing more fries. One even threw a napkin at an old lady sitting nearby. She huffed and moved away, but the bikers didn't care. They thought they were the bosses of everything. Jake watched it all. He didn't say a peep. He just went back to work, flipping burgers like nothing was wrong. Mr. Pete finally came out from the back, but he didn't do much. Keep it down, huh, he mumbled, then disappeared again. The other workers, Sarah and Tim, whispered to each other. Those guys are jerks, Sarah said. Yeah, but what can we do? Tim replied. They looked at Jake, waiting for him to get mad or scared. But he didn't. He just kept going, wiping the counter, filling orders. Quiet. Too quiet. That's when you could feel it, the tension. It was like the air got heavy. Something was building up, even if nobody said it out loud. Rex and his bikers thought they were in charge. They thought Jake was weak, just some nobody they could pick on. But Jake's calm wasn't normal. It wasn't the kind of calm you see when someone's scared or giving up. It was different. Stronger. Like he was waiting for the right moment. Like he wasn't bothered because he knew something they didn't. So there it was, late afternoon at Burger Bonanza. The bikers laughed and made trouble. Customers stayed quiet, hoping they'd leave soon. And Jake? He stood behind the counter, eyes sharp, hands steady, saying nothing. Rex flicked that ketchup packet and thought he'd won. But maybe, just maybe, he'd picked the wrong guy to mess with. The bikers didn't stop. They kept coming back to Burger Bonanza. Not just once, not just twice, but every few days. Like clockwork. Their big, loud motorcycles would rumble into the parking lot, shaking the ground. You could hear them before you saw them, growling engines and wild laughs. Every time they showed up, they got worse. Louder. Meaner. Messy. It was like they wanted everyone to know they were there, and they didn't care who got annoyed. Rex, the leader with the scruffy beard and chipped tooth, was the worst of them all. He made it his special job to bug Jake. It was like a game to him, a mean, nasty game. He'd walk up to the counter with that crooked grin and start trouble. One day, he accidentally knocked over a soda cup. Splash! The sticky brown liquid spilled all over the counter, dripping onto the floor. Oops, Rex said, laughing. His buddies cracked up too, slapping their knees like it was the funniest thing ever. Jake didn't say a word. He just grabbed a rag and wiped it up, slow and steady. Another time, Rex yelled about the food. He held up a burger, took a big bite, and then shouted, "This burger's trash, just like you, burger boy." His voice was so loud it bounced off the walls. The other bikers hooted and cheered, tossing fries around like confetti. Customers stared, some with wide eyes, some with frowns. A little kid at a table nearby hid behind his mom. Rex didn't care. He just kept laughing, acting like he was the king of the whole place. "What's wrong, kid? Gonna cry about it?" he'd tease, leaning over the counter to get in Jake's face. Most people would have gotten mad by now. Most people would have shouted back or told Rex to get lost. Maybe they'd even stomp off and quit their job. But Jake? He didn't do any of that. He stayed cool. Too cool. Way too cool. He'd just nod, flip another burger, and keep working. His face didn't change, no angry frowns, no scared shakes. Nothing. It was like Rex's mean words and loud laughs didn't even touch him. Like he was made of stone or something. The other workers noticed. Sarah, the girl at the drive-thru, started whispering about it. "Those bikers are jerks," she'd say to Tim, the mop guy. "Why doesn't Jake do something?" Tim would shrug and whisper back, "Maybe he's scared. Or maybe he's just weird." One day, they got quiet and sneaky about it. "We should call the cops," Sarah said, peeking out from the drive-thru window. "Those guys are trouble." Tim nodded, but he looked nervous. "Yeah, but what if they get mad? They're big. And loud." They kept talking about it, hiding behind the fry machine so the bikers wouldn't hear. But Jake? He didn't join in. He didn't say a thing. He just kept working, flipping patties, pouring drinks. Mr. Pete, the manager, didn't help either. He'd come out from the back sometimes, his face all red and sweaty. "Keep it down," he'd yell at the bikers, but his voice was shaky. Then he'd duck back into his little office, leaving Jake to deal with everything. The bikers didn't listen anyway. They'd just laugh harder and make more messes. One time, a biker kicked over a trash can by mistake. Garbage spilled everywhere: napkins, wrappers, half-eaten fries. Rex grinned and said, "Clean that up, burger boy." Jake grabbed the broom and swept it up. No complaining. No yelling. Just calm. Then, one day, something happened. Something small, but big at the same time. The bikers were back, being loud as usual. Rex was tossing fries at his buddies, and one of them, a skinny guy with a ponytail, looked at Jake. Really looked at him. He squinted, like he was trying to figure something out. Then he pointed at Jake's hands. "Hey, burger boy," he said, smirking. "What's with your hands? They're all messed up." Everyone turned to look. Jake's knuckles were scarred, little white lines and bumps, like they'd been banged up a bunch of times. His hands didn't look soft or weak. They looked tough. Hard. Like steel. The skinny biker laughed. "What's that from, huh? Burn yourself on the grill." His buddies chuckled, thinking it was a great joke. Rex leaned over the counter again, grinning. "Yeah, burger boy. You clumsy or something." They waited for Jake to get embarrassed or mad. But Jake didn't. He just looked at his hands for a second, then shrugged. "Something like that," he said. His voice was quiet, like always. He didn't explain. He didn't argue. He just went back to work, sliding a tray of food across the counter. That's when you could feel it, something sneaky was going on. Jake's hands weren't normal. They weren't the hands of a guy who just flipped burgers all day. They were different. Strong. Maybe even a little scary. But the bikers didn't care. They didn't think about it. They just kept laughing and teasing, acting like they were the toughest guys around. "Burger boy's a nobody," Rex said, tossing another fry. "Look at him, too chicken to even talk back." His buddies nodded, kicking their boots up on the tables. But Jake wasn't a nobody. Oh no. Behind those quiet eyes, something was happening. He wasn't just standing there, taking it. He was watching. Waiting. Every time Rex said something mean, Jake saw it. Every time a biker shoved a chair or spilled a drink, Jake noticed. Every smirk, every laugh, every rude word, he tucked it away. Like a hunter watching an animal he's about to catch. He didn't move fast. He didn't yell or fight. But he was ready. Ready for something. The bikers didn't see it. They thought they were in charge. They thought Jake was weak, just some quiet kid they could pick on. Rex would strut around, acting like a big shot. "This place is ours now," he'd say, loud enough for everyone to hear. His buddies would cheer and bang their fists on the tables. Customers started coming less. Some stayed away because the bikers scared them. But Jake? He didn't run. He didn't hide. He stayed right there, behind the counter, watching it all. Days turned into weeks. The bikers kept coming. The messes got bigger. The teasing got meaner. And Jake? He kept being cool. Too cool. His scarred hands flipped burgers. His sharp eyes followed Rex. He didn't say much, but he didn't have to. Something was building up. Something big. The bikers thought they were winning. They thought Jake was nothing. Oh, how wrong they were. So wrong. Then came the day it all changed. It wasn't just any day, it was a Friday night. Burger Bonanza was buzzing. The place was packed with people. Families sat at tables, munching fries. Teenagers laughed by the window. A line of customers stretched from the counter almost to the door. Everyone was hungry, talking, waiting for their food. The air smelled like burgers and grease, and the fry machine hissed in the back. It was loud, busy, and hot. Nobody knew what was coming. Nobody except Jake. Outside, the growl of engines cut through the noise. The bikers were back. Their motorcycles roared into the parking lot, louder than ever. Tires squealed. Dust flew up. They parked their bikes all crooked, taking up way too many spots. The ground shook a little as they turned off their engines. Then the door swung open, bang, and in they came. Rex led the way, his scruffy beard and chip-tooth grin looking meaner than usual. His leather jacket creaked. His boots stomped hard on the floor. Behind him, his buddies followed, laughing and yelling like they owned everything. This time, they didn't wait. They didn't even try to act nice. They pushed right through the line of customers. "Move it," one biker shouted, shoving a guy with a tray. People stumbled out of the way, scared and surprised. A little kid dropped his soda, and it spilled all over. The bikers didn't care. They swaggered up to the counter like kings, cutting in front of everyone. Customers grumbled, but nobody said much. They were too afraid. Rex slammed his big fist down on the counter, bam, so hard the ketchup packets jumped. "Burger boy," he yelled, his voice booming. "You're too slow. Maybe I'll come back there and show you how it's done." Rex didn't stop there. He grinned, that nasty crooked grin, and hopped right over the counter. Yup, he climbed over like it was nothing, landing on Jake's side with a thud. His boots hit the floor loud. The crowd gasped. People's eyes got wide. Some backed up, bumping into tables. Others froze, not sure what to do. Rex stood there, chest puffed out, acting like he'd already won. He cracked his knuckles and smirked at Jake. "What you gonna do about it, huh?" he said, laughing. His buddies hooted and cheered from the other side. "Get him, Rex," one yelled. They thought it was over. They thought Jake was done. Mr. Pete, the manager, poked his head out from the back. His face went redder than usual. "Call the cops," he shouted, waving his arms. Sarah, at the drive-thru, grabbed her phone, her hands shaking. Tim, the mop guy, ducked behind a table. Everyone was freaking out. Everyone except Jake. Jake didn't move. He didn't blink. He just stood there, looking at Rex. His face was calm. Too calm. Like the noise and chaos didn't even touch him. Then Jake spoke. "All right," he said. His voice was low and steady, not loud or scared. "You wanna dance? Let's dance." The words hung in the air. Rex laughed big, mean laughs, thinking it was a joke. "Dance," he said, still grinning. "What's Burger Boy gonna do, twirl me around?" His buddies cracked up again, slapping each other's backs. But then Jake did something. He stepped out from behind the counter. Slow. Easy. He reached up, untied his faded apron, and pulled it off. He tossed it aside like it was nothing. And that's when things got weird. Rex kept laughing until Jake moved. Jake's feet shifted. They planted firm on the floor, solid like a tree. His hands came up, fists closed tight. His shoulders squared. His whole body changed. Suddenly, he didn't look like Burger Boy anymore. He didn't look small or quiet or boring. He looked strong. Tough. Ready. Rex's laugh stopped fast. His eyes got narrow, like he wasn't so sure anymore. The crowd went quiet. You could hear a pin drop, even with all those people there. Rex swung at him. A big, wild punch, fast and hard. He wanted to smash Jake's face. Everyone gasped again. But Jake? He was faster. He ducked to the side, smooth as water. Rex's fist hit nothing but air. Before Rex could even blink, Jake grabbed his arm quick, like lightning. He twisted it, pulled, and flipped Rex right over. Bam! Rex hit the floor hard. A huge thud shook the room. Tables rattled. Soda cans wobbled. Rex landed on his back, groaning loud, clutching his side like it hurt bad. The other bikers froze. Their mouths dropped open. They didn't laugh now. They didn't cheer. They just stared. Rex rolled a little, trying to sit up. His face was all twisted, part mad, part confused. He looked up at Jake, wheezing, his breath all short and shaky. "Who are you?" he said, his voice weak and scratchy. The big, tough guy didn't sound so tough anymore. He sounded small. Scared, even. Jake stood over him, still calm. He cracked a tiny grin, just a little one, like he was finally having fun. "Jake Miller," he said, clear and steady. "Former MMA champ. Nice to meet you." The words hit like a bomb. MMA champ? What? The crowd gasped again, louder this time. People whispered fast. Did he say champ? What's MMA? Is he for real? Sarah dropped her phone. Tim peeked out from behind the table, his eyes huge. Mr. Pete's jaw fell so low it almost hit the floor. Rex blinked up at Jake, still on the ground. His buddies didn't move. They didn't know what to do. Jake wasn't just Burger Boy. He was a fighter. A real one. A champion. Those scarred hands. That cool, steady look. It all made sense now. He'd been hiding who he really was behind that apron and those quiet nods. But not anymore. The secret was out, and it was big. Bigger than anyone thought. The room buzzed. People pulled out their phones, snapping pictures, recording videos. "He flipped him," a kid yelled, pointing. "That was so cool," an old lady said, clapping. Rex groaned again, trying to get up, but he couldn't. Jake didn't even look tired. He just stood there, fists still up, ready for more. The bikers didn't dare try anything. They thought Jake was nothing. They thought they could push him around. But now they knew. They'd picked the wrong guy. The whole place went wild. The crowd at Burger Bonanza erupted like a volcano. Some people cheered loud, clapping their hands and shouting, "Yeah, Jake." Others grabbed their phones fast, holding them up to record everything. Little kids jumped up and down, pointing at Jake. "He's so cool," one yelled. An old man by the window smiled big and said, "That's how you do it?" Everyone was buzzing, talking all at once. It was like a party broke out right there in the restaurant. The bikers. They didn't know what to do. They scrambled to their feet, tripping over each other. Their tough faces were gone now. They looked scared. Rex was still on the floor, groaning and holding his side. One biker, a tall guy with a ponytail, tried to be brave. He rushed at Jake, swinging his fist hard. But Jake was ready. He stepped to the side, quick and smooth, like it was nothing. Then pow, he landed a fast punch, a jab right to the guy's chest. The biker stumbled back, crashing into a table. Crash. Soda cans fell over, and fries flew everywhere. The guy sat there, blinking, too dizzy to get up. Jake stood tall, looking at the other bikers. "Anyone else?" he asked. His voice was calm, Just like always. No yelling, no shaking. Just steady. The bikers froze. They didn't say a word. Their eyes got wide, and they shook their heads fast. Nope, they didn't want any more. They grabbed Rex, pulling him up by his arms. He tried to stand, but his legs wobbled like jelly. This ain't over. Rex yelled as they dragged him to the door. But his voice was all shaky and weak. It didn't sound tough. It sounded like he was scared and just pretending. The bikers pushed out the door, running to their bikes. Engines roared, and they sped off, gone in a cloud of dust. Inside, it got quiet for a second. Then Mr. Pete, the manager, ran out from the back. His eyes were huge, like saucers. His mouth opened and closed, like he didn't know what to say. "Jake," he stammered, "why didn't you tell us?" He sounded shocked, like he couldn't believe it. Jake just shrugged, "Real easy. Didn't think it mattered, till now," he said. His voice was soft, like it wasn't a big deal. He picked up his apron, shook it off, and went back behind the counter. Just like that. Word got around fast. Super fast. By the next day, everyone was talking about it. People didn't call him Burger Boy anymore. Nope. Now he was the MMA burger guy. Customers started coming just to see him. Families, kids, even old people, they all wanted to meet Jake. "Is that the fighter guy?" they'd whisper, peeking over the counter. Jake didn't act different. He still flipped burgers and handed out fries. But now, people smiled at him. They said thanks and "Wow, you're awesome." The line got longer every day. Rex and his biker crew? They were gone. Poof. They never came back. Not once. Nobody saw their loud motorcycles or heard their mean laughs again. Maybe they were too embarrassed. Maybe they were scared. Whatever it was, they stayed far away from Burger Bonanza. Jake had won. Not just the fight, but everything. The mean guys got what they deserved, and Jake got respect. Big time. So there you have it, Jake Miller's story. He was the quiet guy at Burger Bonanza, the one nobody noticed. Just a regular dude flipping burgers, right? Nope. He turned everything upside down. Those loudmouth bikers thought they were big and tough. They laughed at Jake, called him names, and made a mess. But Jake flipped the script on them literally. He showed them he wasn't just some burger boy. He was strong, smart, and way tougher than they ever guessed. And in the end, he sent them running with their tails between their legs. That's the cool thing about this story. Sometimes, the person you least expect is the one who surprises you most. Jake didn't look special. He didn't act loud or brag about himself. He didn't have a shiny jacket or a big motorcycle. He was just Jake. Quiet Jake with the messy hair and the old apron. But inside, he had something amazing. He had power nobody saw coming. And when the time was right, he used it. Boom. The bikers didn't know what hit them. They thought they were the kings, but Jake showed them who was really in charge. Think about that for a second. The people who judge too quick? The ones who look at someone and say, "Oh, they're nothing special?" They're the ones who end up wrong. Big time. Rex and his crew judged Jake fast. They saw his apron and his quiet ways, and they thought he was weak. Ha! They were so wrong. They ended up on the floor, looking silly, while Jake stood tall. That's what happens when you don't take the time to really see someone. You miss the good stuff. You miss the strength hiding inside. So, what about you? Have you ever met someone tougher than they look? Maybe a kid at school who's super quiet but awesome at something like drawing or running or even standing up to a bully. Or maybe an adult, like a teacher or a neighbor, who seems boring but has a cool secret. I bet you have. People like Jake are everywhere. They don't always shout about how great they are. They just wait, and when the moment comes, they shine. That's pretty amazing, right? Next time you see someone quiet or different, don't judge fast. Don't think, "Oh, they're not important." Give them a chance. Look a little closer. You might be surprised at what you find. Maybe they're strong like Jake. Maybe they've got a story that'll blow your mind. You never know until you try. And that's the big lesson here: don't count anyone out. The quiet ones, the small ones, the ones who don't show off? They might just be the toughest of all. So, what do you think? Did you love Jake's story? Did it make you cheer when he flipped Rex? Let me know below, I wanna hear from you. Have you ever met someone tougher than they look? Tell me about it. And if you like this, give it a big thumbs up. It's been fun telling you this tale. See you in the next story, bye for now.